Good evening and welcome to BATV News. I'm Kalila Reynolds. Come January 1, single-use plastic bags, plastic straws and styrofoam will be banned from importation, distribution and manufacturing in Jamaica. The announcement was made after a series of meetings with stakeholders and manufacturers in the plastic industry. More in this report from Jamila Maitland.
2 years after the government announced its intention to ban plastics, it's finally coming to fruition. Minister without portfolio in the office of the Prime Minister, Darrell Vaz, listed different plastic items that should no longer be imported, distributed, nor manufactured in Jamaica come January 1.
As of January 1st, 2019, the government will impose a ban on the import, manufacture, distribution, and use of all single-use plastic carrier bags with the dimensions at and below 24 inches by 24 inches, which includes those bags commonly referred to locally as scandal bags and T-shirt bags. Commencing January 1st, 2019, the government will institute a ban on the importation of expanded polystyrene foam, commonly referred to as styrofoam, for use as finished goods in the food and beverage industry. The government will institute a ban on the import and manufacture of plastic drinking straws as of January 1st, 2019.
However, Minister Vaz says there are currently no sanctions for those who violated the ban. But he explained that the Jamaica Customs and the Bureau of Standards have been briefed, while the team continues to assess the possible sanctions, which he says require a multidisciplinary approach.
There is some logistic things that have to be done, but one thing I can categorically state is that there will be a multi-agency approach to this, because obviously it leaves room for rogue behavior, and we are going to make sure that between customs, along with the Bureau of Standards, along with other government agencies, and most importantly, the partnership with those manufacturers who have been affected, to pull together a very solid team, not only in terms of implementation, but in terms of making sure that we get the intelligence and be able to act on intelligence to make sure that it is a complete ban.
Minister Vaz says businesses can apply for exemptions. This may include some plastics needed for the food and medical industries, like bread and meats, and straws for feeding patients.
The guideline for applications for exemptions for the specific categories of plastic packaging materials that I have just outlined will be developed by NEPA in consultation with the relevant public sector agencies. These guidelines will be posted on the GIS and the NEPA's websites, as well as circulated to the affected private sector stakeholders.
For BATV News, I'm Jamila Maitland.
Meanwhile, Jamaica Environment Trust JET is welcoming the plastic and styrofoam ban. In a statement this afternoon, JET says the long-awaited announcement comes after decades of advocacy by JET to address Jamaica's plastic pollution. The organization says the new strategies tackle plastic pollution at their source, removing several types of non-biodegradable packaging from the market and the country's waste stream. The bold move by the GOJ is in line with global trends to reduce or eliminate single-use plastic packaging and represents a positive shift in environmental policy by the GOJ. JET says it looks forward to further details on how the bans on plastic packaging will be implemented and enforced at the nation's ports and in the wider economy. They say public education and improved access to suitable alternatives to plastic packaging will also be critical. Stay with us. We'll have more news after the break. Welcome back. Inflation has risen to just below the Bank of Jamaica's target range of 4 to 6%. The Statistical Institute of Jamaica, Statin, released the Consumer Price Index for August this afternoon. Point-to-point inflation, that is from August last year to August this year, is now at 3.9%. This following inflation of 0.9% in the month of August. Stanton says this was mostly driven by a 1.6% increase in the cost of food, mainly agricultural produce. Another influence on the upward movement was the furnishing, household equipment and routine household maintenance division as a result of the 13% increase in the minimum wage. These increases were mitigated by a fall of 0.1% in the index for the division housing, water, electricity, gas and other fuels due to lower electricity rates. 876 on the Go is one of the latest taxi service applications launched in Jamaica last week. The company allows commuters to book a cab from their smart device. Javon Keys has more.
If you talk to most Jamaicans, they'll tell you that their biggest concerns regarding transportation is the issue of reliability and safety. Here we have 876 on the Go taxi service, which was launched last week, which is the latest in rideshare applications with a similar mechanism to that of Uber, which is based in the United States of America. It joins a few other apps such as Ride Jamaica, which was also launched last week, and Get There Jamaica. They're being compared to Uber for their app-based bookings, but they're not ride-sharing companies like Uber. Apart from the app, they're not much different from other taxi companies like GatchPro or On Time Service. The apps take a few seconds to download, after which you are asked to create an account. Once that's done, you're all set to use the service. Once you've selected your destination and your trip is confirmed, there's just the wait for an available driver, which depending on traffic may vary. Another edge the new taxi apps boast is safety, with commuters fearful following reports of robberies and kidnappings by taxi operators. These applications allow passengers to be rest assured. As soon as a driver is confirmed for the trip, the driver's name, a photograph, and the details of the vehicle registration plate all appear in the app. You can also see the real-time location of the vehicle and an estimate of the arrival time. Our news team compared the rates to ordinary non-app taxi services and found that in many instances they were the same, or for some routes $100 or $200 cheaper. Transport Minister Robert Montague has said he's in talks with Uber, which is looking to enter the Jamaican market. If approved, it's clear they'll face considerable competition from local companies already embracing the technology. For BATV News, I'm Javon Keys.
Farmers who sell coffee to the Mavis Bank Coffee Factory today changed the factory gates and put production on pause. They're again protesting the price at which the factory is buying their coffee. The farmers say the $4,000 per box being offered by the factory is not enough. But Managing Director of the Mavis Bank Coffee Factory, Norman Grant, says the factory has paid the farmers $6,000 for their first crop. He says the $4,000 per box that they're offering for the second crop is because the factory's selling price has also been reduced.
Which was really due to the steep reduction of the selling price from $40 per kg to $25 per kg. So, I understand the concern and I understand the challenges that the farmers are going through.
The coffee farmers say they also want the $60 million donated by owner of the Mavis Bank Coffee Factory, Michael Lee Chin, last week to revive the coffee industry to be given to them in cash instead of resources. But Mr. Grant says all he can do right now is communicate the concerns of the farmers to the Vice President of Mavis Bank Coffee Factory. He says he hopes a mutually beneficial agreement can be reached soon.
I have since spoken to the Vice Chairman on the matter, that is our Vice Chairman. I committed to the farmers to convey their concerns, and I have communicated that.
Welcome back. Time now for regional and international news. More trouble for Bahamas Power and Light, BPL, as firefighters were called to battle another blaze, this time at another power station. Here's more from ZNS News Bahamas.
Another week, another fire for the Bahamas Power and Light Company. Firefighters were called in for the fourth time in just over a week to battle a fire at BPL. The first 3 fires were at the Clifton plant, but on Saturday night, the Blue Hills plant was the scene of the latest inferno. Chief Superintendent Walter Evans says the call came after 9 p.m.
We had smoke coming from an area which they have referred to as the distribution center. And the fire right now is still ongoing. However, it's not at a level where we need to be concerned for the remainder of the plant.
Some 3 units were called to the scene to battle the fire that Evans says resulted in some power outages in southwestern New Providence. He says the cause of the fire at that point had not been determined. This despite 3 fires, 2 of which occurred in less than 12 hours at the power company's Clifton site last week.
We do not suspect anything with any underlying issues, but it may be just a matter of where we believe that is because of the amount of the power load. That is a possibility, but in terms of, and that we will have to determine that, but we do not suspect anything suspicious in this matter.
In light of possible concerns of arson in the wake of so many fires in rapid succession, the fire chief says a probe will be conducted into what occurred at the facility. The power company has been in the news over the last few months following a right-sizing exercise that saw a significant number of employees disengaged, and the unions representing staff have called for some of those to be rehired. There was also a controversy over alleged political interference that led to the appointment of a new board.
An investigation will be carried out to determine that BPL staff members, they have several of their professionals who are here. They're working closely with us to ensure that, and they've advised us, as to what is really happening as best as they can. And so for that reason, with the cooperation of the BPL staff members who are here, we do not suspect anything.
There is no word yet on the cost of this fire, but BPL CEO Whitney Hasty previously estimated the cost of the fires at the Clifton plant last week to be in the range of $30 million. Cleopatra Murphy, ZNS Network News.
Now, BPL issuing a statement saying preliminary investigations suggest that the electrical fire was caused by equipment failure. A full investigation has been launched and arson is not suspected at this time. BPL says its engineers are working to repair the damage and the substation should be back in operation tomorrow. During this time, consumers can expect temporary outages.
The head of the International Monetary Fund, IMF, has warned that a no-deal exit from the European Union will come at a substantial economic cost to the UK and stifle the country's growth, even if a smooth transition was reached. Here's more from Al Jazeera's Paul Brennan.
At one point in her news conference, Christine Lagarde described herself as a desperate optimist. But delivering the IMF's latest assessment of the UK economy, her tone was repeatedly downbeat about Britain post-Brexit.
So whatever the deal is will not be as good as it is at the moment.
And asked about the seemingly growing prospect of Britain crashing out without a Brexit deal.
Now, clearly, if that was to happen, our assessment is that it would have very dear economic consequences. It will be a shock to supply. And it would inevitably have a series of consequences in terms of reduced growth going forward, increased deficit, most likely, depreciation of the currency, and it would, in reasonably short order, mean a reduction of the size of the UK economy.
The Brexit deadlines are approaching fast. For Britain to depart the European Union in an orderly manner next March, they really need to agree the EU divorce bill by the end of this year. And EU leaders are braced for an emergency summit mid-November. But the British Prime Minister Theresa May is facing considerable opposition to her compromise proposal, the so-called Chequers Plan. And if that is rejected by the UK Parliament, then the very real prospect of a no-deal Brexit looms. Boris Johnson resigned from the government over Brexit and has taken to sniping from his regular newspaper column. The whole thing is a constitutional abomination, he writes, and if Chequers were adopted, it would mean that for the first time since 1066, our leaders were deliberately acquiescing in foreign rule. The presidency of the EU is currently with Austria, and its leader is visiting Paris for talks with the French president.
I think there we agree that we have to do everything possible to avoid a hard Brexit and to make possible that there will be a strong cooperation between the UK and the European Union even after the UK leaving the EU.
The EU chief negotiator Michel Barnier is in Madrid with little to add.
I don't want to answer questions. No, oui. Avec un bon état d'esprit.
A spirit of good cooperation were the final words there. Mr. Barnier will give a fuller assessment when he briefs ministers from the remaining 27 member states back in Brussels on Tuesday. Paul Brennan, Al Jazeera, London.
Thousands of people in the migrant smuggling business have lost their jobs as the European Union moves to toughen migration policies at external borders. One such town is Agadez, now the poorest in the United Nations, after their main source of revenue becomes threatened. More from Euronews.
This livestock market on the outskirts of the town of Agadez in central Niger used to be bustling every day. But business has plunged since a law against activities linked to migration was implemented 2 years ago, depriving the local population of a major source of revenue. Prices at the market have fallen as customers have lost their income. There's no money, says this camel herder. He tells us a camel like this one used to be worth 500,000 Central African francs, about 800 euros. Now it's less than 500 euros. The situation, he says, is the result of the anti-smuggling law. Agadez used to be a major hub for Western African migrants traveling to Libya. Now, flows have allegedly fallen by 80%. As a result, thousands of people involved in the migration business have lost their jobs. Bashir leads an association that helps former smugglers. He takes us to one of the beneficiaries of an EU-funded reconversion program meant to give them alternatives. Abdurrahman got a kit of chairs and sound equipment that he rents out for celebrations. Though he barely makes enough money to feed his family, he's one of the lucky few. Until now, only 4% out of 7,000 applicants for the reconversion program have benefited from it.
There are families left with nothing. We are eating up our savings. We use the money we made before to feed ourselves. It's really very hard for us.
In the streets of Agadez, more and more children are begging for food. The region has become one of the poorest in a country that the UN has ranked as one of the least developed in the world.
The EU has pledged to provide Niger with 1 billion euros in development aid by 2020. But in the meantime, people in Agadez are struggling to make ends meet. And everyone here is convinced of just one thing: the main beneficiary of the money spent so far in Africa to address migration issues is the European Union. Valerie Goria, Agadez, Euronews.
Stay with us. Talking Stocks comes up next. Welcome back. Time now for Talking Stocks. 62 stocks traded today, of which 27 advanced, 25 declined, and 10 traded firm. The main JSE index advanced by 31 points to close at over 351,000 points. The junior index advanced by 5 points to close at 3,402. 13.5 million units traded today, valued at over $122 million on the Jamaican dollar market. While on the U.S. dollar market, more than 220,000 units traded, valued at over $50,000 US dollars. Wisynca Group, with 4.7 million units trading, accounted for 35% of market volume. 138 Student Living, with over 3.3 million units trading, was second. Indus Pharma Ordinary Shares, with a little over 1 million units trading, was third. accounting for 8% of market volume. The main advancers were Barita Investments up $2.61 to close at $15.02. Caribbean Cream went up by 92 cents to close at $7.72, and Iron Rock Insurance rose $1.40 to close at $3.90. The main decliners were Main Event down 82 cents to close at $5.42, followed by Derrimon Trading down 26 cents and to close at $2.25, and Pulse Investments down 25 cents to close at $2.55. In foreign exchange trading, the Jamaican dollar gained on the U.S. and Canadian, but lost to the British pound. The U.S. dollar ended the day trading for an average $136.60, losing 14 cents to the Jamaican dollar. The Canadian dollar ended the day selling for $105.56, losing 19 cents to the Jamaican dollar. And the British pound sold for $179.47, an 80-cent gain on the Jamaican dollar. And that's the news. But before we go, a recap of our top story. Come January 1, single-use plastic bags, plastic straws, and styrofoam will be banned from importation, distribution, and manufacturing in Jamaica. Thanks for watching. For more content, visit our website at batvja.com. I'm Kalila Reynolds. Pleasant viewing.